The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Wrestling with Johners Live, episode 286. I'm not even sure what day of the week it is. I think it's Monday. So our usual day for doing live interviews. I know last week it was thrown all over the place. We had SoCal Val on the Monday and then we had Lizzie Evo on the Thursday. So we've had some great interviews and I'll go through some of the fantastic chats that I've had in 2023 so far in a moment. But today, I've got one of the best UK wrestlers on the scene at the minute, and he's had a bit of a resurgence over the last year and a half, and I can't wait to talk about his journey, like I say, what he's been up to over the last year and a half since UK wrestling came back, and all the fun matches, and all the fun things he's been up to. But he's had a bit of a rich history since coming onto the scene several years ago. But I want to introduce to you Harrison Bennett. Harrison, how you doing? And thank you for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me on. Like I was saying to you earlier, I just got back from work, but I managed to get myself all ready, sat down, I got a beer, ready to go. So
absolutely,
I'm looking forward to having a chat with you.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for being on time as well, because when I spoke to Lizzie Evo on Thursday, I think she was 2.5 hours late. But that's right, we had a great conversation at the end. Yeah, like I say, a really, really good interview. But like, so we do have Harrison Bennett live on the Wrestling with Johners podcast. We are live across YouTube, Facebook, and of course Twitch. And if you want to get in touch, the details are along the bottom of the screen. Just send through your questions or your comments for Harrison to the show. Using your chosen device, they'll ping through to us, and we do our very best to bring them up live on screen over the next hour or so. But this is going to be a fun one because, in all honesty, since Harrison or Man Like Bino first came onto my radar a few years back, I've always wanted to get him on this show, and we finally managed to do it. And I know that you don't do many podcasts, do you, Harrison? So we're kind of very honoured to have you today.
Yeah, no. Not very often, really. Not often.
Not your thing. But like I say, we have had some fantastic names come onto the Wrestling with Johners podcast so far this year. One or two that Harrison might know, but we started the year with Jetta, fantastic female performer on the UK scene. Then we had the brilliance, James Ellis, and I'm sure that he's going to come up during this conversation. The Brill. Truman Roswell came onto the show also in January, along with that damn dirty dog G Money. And January was capped off with Tom Dawkins, Cara Noir, coming on the Wrestling with Johners podcast. Another name that Harrison might know, but we had Bowler Armour on the show to begin February. And what a pair they were. Absolutely fantastic. A great conversation, a great laugh. And then the following week, I had Bullet doing some wonderful things on the UK scene, up and down the country. And of course, a bit of a name for himself in progress at the moment. And as I said last week, we had SoCal Val on the Monday and Lizzie Evo on the Thursday. Two great interviews, a whole plethora of fantastic interviews to kick off 2023. And we got this man here. But to start off the conversation, I've got a picture to bring up, and it is this one here. Now, tell me, where was this from yesterday? Southampton by any chance?
This was from Southampton yesterday. Yeah, the Live in Southampton show.
Yeah, so I've got to be honest, doing my research, I don't think you've wrestled for RevPro before, but looking at you there, I'm going to bring up the picture again, looking jacked, looking good, and I mean, is there, is that a company that you'd like to work for? And being as you were there backstage, I'm guessing that there's talks of possibly having Harrison Bennett on a RevPro card sometime soon?
Well, I've got my fingers crossed. But I actually made my first appearance yesterday.
Ah, so, you did. You performed. Okay, tell us about it.
So, it wasn't actually a match. So the first match on was Danny against Robbie X. It was a non-title fight for the Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah.
And I made a bit of an appearance there at the end, where Dan got the pinfall on Robbie. And then Dan and Brendan started to jump Robbie. And I came in to help Robbie, but then I didn't actually end up helping Robbie. I clocked him with a discus forearm instead.
Right, okay.
But yeah, so but look, Robbie's coming to. Well, I'm hoping Robbie's coming to Cardiff on Friday because RevPro have their Tram Shed show in Cardiff on Friday. So if he wants to come down with his title, I'll be happy to accept the match with him.
Wow, interesting that you should say that, because I'm going to be at the Tram Shed as well on Friday. So whatever happens, hopefully you'll be there. But I know, as far as I'm aware, nothing's been announced yet. But that would be pretty cool if we could see you down there and making your official RevPro debut. I mean, obviously, you got some big companies, some big UK indies on the scene, but RevPro are definitely up there, renowned around the world, got the relationship with New Japan. I'm going to have the very best talent from around the world wrestling for RevPro. So I think that you would definitely be suited to a company such as RevPro. Is it a company that you've had your eye on for a while, Harry?
Yeah, of course. Like, even from when I first started, there's always like you have a handful of promotions that you really want to work for. You kind of start off like the first step from like a training school would be, well, say from Dragon Pro back in the day on New Wave now. Then you have like your links to your attacks or your chaos.
Yeah.
And then there's like the step above, which would be whatever. And then, like you kind of feel that the top of the UK is usually like your Progress and your Rev Pros. Whether everyone has this, whether people agree with me or not on that, but I think that that's the way it is, where you have the ones that are like the top tier ones. And then you sort of start and build and make your way up, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think you've definitely created an awesome platform for you, certainly with what you've been up to in 2022 going into 2023. And we've actually got somebody you might know, Jack Knudsen, watching us live via YouTube, one half of Act 2. Thank you for watching, Jack. Yes, he says there. But like I say, if you do perform for RevPro on from the Tram Shed on Friday, I'd love to see you there for sure, making your official RevPro debut. But I mean, thinking about the last 12 months or so, or possibly since UK wrestling came back in the summer of 21, Harry, like I say, it's been a bit of a wild ride for UK wrestling. Coming back that summer, a lot of new promotions, a lot of new people on the scene, or people that are maybe bubbling under the surface. But for yourself, the last 12 to 18 months, I mean, if you could sum up your recent year or so in the UK wrestling business, how would you? I mean, has it been a good journey over the last year or so, or how would you describe it?
Nah, I'd say the last year has been a good journey for me. Obviously, it started off slow, as it did for everybody. But the more we went on and the more time went by, there were more bookings popping up. And there were more bookings and there were more promotions that were starting to run, which equaled to more opportunities, you know what I mean? So I started to fill up my weekends, where it started off with like 1 or 2 a month, which wasn't enough. And I was not really happy with it at all.
Yeah.
To now I'm wrestling almost every weekend. But yeah, like I think I'm trying to find like a happy medium between finding time to work the full-time job and get as much wrestling as possible. And thankfully, the full-time job actually quite helpful with letting me have time off on the weekends for wrestling. So even though it is pretty chock-a-block, I feel like I'm working 7 days a week, where it's like Monday to Friday, and maybe Saturday, Sunday I have off for wrestling, and back to it again Monday.
But that's the grind, isn't it?
Massive in my eyes. That's
the grind.
His
eyes are showing that.
That's sleep deprivation.
Absolutely. But I mean, you're coming out of lockdown, because I mean, anybody that's seen you work over the last year or so would have noticed there may be a bit of a difference in appearance. Certainly, that your ring gear, your jacket, maybe your look. But coming out of lockdown, did you make any conscious decisions on how you wanted to, be received or perceived by the fans, by promoters, by the locker room? And did you want to kind of switch things up a little bit for yourself? Maybe a slightly more updated. Obviously, we had the name change, but an updated Harrison compared to what we had before.
Well, that's what it was. It all started from wanting the name change from Man Like Bino, and I was going for ages trying to think of different names, which is even one when I ended up doing the one NXTUK gig. I thought that Harry Green would have been a good idea, and then eventually I spoke to some people about it, and then they kind of advised me to go with more of a name that suited Bino rather than Bino just be a throwaway name.
Yeah.
Which is why I went with Harrison Bennett, because you can kind of give the story that the name Bennett, I got the nickname Bino from Bennett.
Of course.
Yeah, but as well as that, without the jacket and stuff, I find that I wanted to, as Man Like Beano, I was more like a young chav kind of character that enjoyed going and partying, quite troublesome. But I felt like as I was getting older myself, I didn't really have that head on my shoulders anymore. I kind of felt like I had to change something up. So still want to keep a bit of the raving kind of character, which I do sometimes. I do still bring the dancing out every so often when I feel like it's right in the right kind of scenarios and in the right situation. But I feel like I'm more me now. It's not me trying to keep up with the character. It's me trying to keep up with me and what I find easiest when I'm doing my entrance or when I'm wrestling. That's it really.
Yeah, it seems to be a more focused, more determined, maybe a more grown up version of what we had before. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
That's actually what it is. It's like an amp up in aggression. You know what I mean? Like before, I'd come out and it'd be more for laughs and jokes, and I'd be concentrating more on getting a laugh from the crowd. Whether it's me trying to be a heel and acting stupid and getting laughed at, or me just coming out and dancing and being silly and having laughs and giggles from the crowd. But I think that had to change up because I wasn't doing that for that long, really. It was only the first couple of years I was kind of doing that. And then I really want to try and concentrate on my wrestling and try and be a better version of me rather than come out and try and get like just laughs. I want to be a good wrestler. I want to be the best at what I do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I find the aggression that I bring now is like unmatched. I find the aggression that I have in matches is the best aggression and the best sort of fire that I've ever showed in any of my previous years in wrestling.
Yeah, I think you've definitely turned up the intensity of what you do, and definitely want to talk more about that in a bit. And something else is I've got to talk about this jacket here. The jacket, that's pretty special. Is that something you still currently use? Is that part of your current look and current gimmick? Because that's a pretty cool. Where'd you get that from, first of all?
I got it from like a vintage online store. I saw it. It was like 35 quid. I was like, I'm buying that jacket. But then because I wear the jacket as well. Like if I go to a festival, I'll take that jacket with me. That's like my comfy, like people have their like blankets and stuff, or like kids have their blankets. You know what I mean? Like that to me, I take it like anywhere I go. If I go to a rave, if I go to a festival, wrestling, it's just more like excuse to be able to wear it really. But I was thinking like I don't know whether to get gear. Because at the moment it doesn't match my gear at all. I look a bit stupid to be honest with you, but I love the jacket. So I don't
think it's great. It's different. Yeah, it's different.
It kind of suits me and my character, even though, like as you mentioned, I bring much more intensity to into my matches now. Like that jacket doesn't show it at all, but that's kind of a step back to the Raven character that I'm also trying to portray.
Yeah, 100%.
But with that jacket, I kind of wanted to maybe for my next set of gear get like a color coordinated to that jacket, so it makes it more understandable why I'm wearing the jacket, and it makes it might be a better look if I have gear that matches the jacket.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. And another picture. I mean, look at that. I mean, you're looking pretty shredded there, my friend. And something else to back that up is, like I say, your intense workouts. But I mean, you've always had a fairly good physique, a fairly good look. But to me, it looks like you've been focusing a lot more on your physique as well.
Yeah, man. Like that. Like his name was bound to come. His name was bound to come up in this conversation at some point. But it was during COVID where Brendan White, he had started doing CrossFit and he was looking great from it. He said his cardio was excellent, and there's nothing like, you can ask any wrestler, there's nothing you can do in wrestling to be able to train like your cardio for a match. Or no, sorry, in the gym. In wrestling, you can train and help and try and better your cardio for when you wrestle on the weekends or during the week. Pardon me. But if you go to the gym and do your weightlifting, that still doesn't improve your cardio during like a wrestling match.
Yeah.
So 3-4 minutes in, it's all good being jacked and being built. But then if you're gassing come halfway through the match, then you're gonna look like a tit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Brendan advised saying like, look, just come and try CrossFit. And 1 month went by, another month went by. He's like, look, come and try CrossFit. Just come and give it a go. So the one day I was like, yeah, why not? I'll go and try it and see what it's all about. And then after that, I was there for about a year. I had like a year's with the CrossFit, and from that, I don't do it anymore because I've gone back into doing some stuff in the gym. But I learned so much in that year doing CrossFit, where I still have 3 or 4 days in the gym now, where I'll go in the morning before work, and I'll do like a 15-minute or 20-minute like HIIT workout or CrossFit workout. And the class, like, and if anyone watching this is into the gym and into the keeping fit, I can't advise going to CrossFit. Like you have to give it a try. You have to give it a go.
Absolutely, and I'm sure so probably got some aspiring wrestlers watching, so take that advice on board for sure. Now I remember, I think one of my highlights of last year as a wrestling fan was watching you work at No Mercy Wrestling back in October of last year, and you wrestled the Brilliance, the Brill, James Ellis there. What a fantastic guy. What a character. Like I say, I had him on the show in January, of course. But I mentioned earlier intensity and just the pace that you bring. And I think the two of you, I know that you know each other very well. You've had many competitions against one another, but the two of you brought out the best of one another in that match. And I'll say this hand on heart, not just because you're my guest this week. That was one of my favorite matches of 2022.
Oh, for real? Yeah.
100%.
Oh, sweet, man. Yeah, it's so much fun working with James. It's fun working with him because I know he works hard. I speak to him on a daily basis. He sometimes comes to my house and we have a couple of beers and we have a catch up and whatnot.
Yeah.
But he truly is a hard worker. He's young and you can tell he wants it. You can really see the difference between somebody that kind of trains for fun and somebody that wants to achieve things with their wrestling career. And he really does. He doesn't stop, even though he's achieved what he's achieved now, and there's just no signs of him slowing down.
No, and like I say, such a character, a great talker as well. The two of you just had amazing chemistry in that ring. Absolutely loved it, and like I say, hand on heart, one of my favourite matches of last year. But I mean, that James Ellis, in a nutshell, he's kind of coming onto a lot of people's radar last year, this year. Doing some great things. Recently picked up the New Wave Wrestling Championship. He's the No Mercy Wrestling Combat Legacy champion as well. So he's picking up some gold. But the South Wales scene at the moment. Now, I know you're talking probably early 2010s, mid 2010s. UK wrestling was kind of the hotbed of world wrestling, really. Everybody was talking about Brit Rest. Everybody was talking about what a fantastic scene it was. But South Wales was right kind of at the tip of that kind of scene, weren't they? They the people they were producing, the Mark Andrews, the Eddie Dennises, the Wild Boars, so many more. Being part of that scene during that era, like say the mid 2010s and onwards, that must have been a bit of a thrill ride, because not only was the UK wrestling scene kind of white hot at the time, but Wales and South Wales, the wrestling scene around your neck of the woods, was kind of at the forefront of that as well, weren't they, Harry?
Oh yeah, it was incredible. Well, that was when it was Dragon Pro, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Dragon Pro. So I started training in 2015. And I had my debut in January of 2016. But yeah, being around that was incredible. Just like being able to wrestle and train and to learn from, like you said, your Flash Morgan Websters and your Wild Boars. And on the odd occasion, we get Eddie Dennis down, and we were being trained by Mike Bird at the time as well. Like, we couldn't have wished to be anywhere better at that time. Like, in fact, we're still lucky now that Wild Boars still trains on a regular basis at New Wave. But yeah, it's insane. Like I said, like there are certain places around the UK where they have their big trainers, but in Wales we literally have like 5 or 6 different people that had now gone on further to do bigger things. Yeah. But yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, it was insane.
And the correlation between that and now, like so when you talk about New Wave Wrestling, which was it's succeeded Dragon Pro, obviously headed up by Brendan White, and I've got Brendan White coming on the show later on this week. But New Wave Academy and that whole South Wales wrestling scene at the moment is kind of getting up to the heights that we saw, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I know that you're very much part of New Wave, along with the other trainers there. I think Danny Jones, Brendan, I think Nico Angelo, Wild Boar, and a great crop of trainees there. James Ellis, of course. I've had Aluna Blue on the show recently, and so many others. But that New Wave Academy and that New Wave Wrestling at the moment, they're kind of producing some awesome talent, aren't they?
Awesome's an understatement.
Yeah.
It's scaring me. Like, I like my spots, but some of the people coming up, I'm thinking, oh God, I have to start working harder. Yeah, like the people that are coming up at the moment, like the wrestling industry in the UK, like the wrestling scene doesn't know what's going to hit them. Like even now, like I'm saying this as if something's going to happen, as if it's not already happening. Like the ball's rolling. Like New Wave and South Wales have put themselves back on the map. So I find that Wales had a bit of silence from Wales.
Yeah.
In between when I started and now. But I feel like with New Wave and Brendan and him doing what he's doing now to help build this incredible place where there's like, I wish I had photos of the unit or video of the unit to show you. It's incredible. It's so professional, and that's what he brings. Is that level of professionalism where you're not going there to have a laugh and joke around. You're going there if you want to be a professional wrestler, you go to this training academy, and Brendan and Wildball and the rest of the team will make you the best version of you that you can possibly be. Like all you have to do is put your trust in them, and they will do that for you. They train 5 times a week. I think it's Monday to Thursday.
Wow.
And then a Sunday as well. So and the unit, there's like a gym downstairs. So like if the trainees want to use a gym, or if the trainees want to use a gym beforehand or after training, then they're open to. There's like a full-size ring set up with like a matted area around the sides. There's a shop downstairs if you want to buy food and drinks. There's like a gym next door if you want to buy meals and whatnot. Like it's almost like you can go there for like a day out. You know what I mean? It's like a day trip going there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like any locals that might be tuned into this or end up watching it afterwards, like give New Wave a try. Head to a beginner session, or even more advanced wrestlers that might tune in. There's advanced sessions during the week as well. It's worth showing your face just to go there and see what it's all about. Even if it's once, just go there, see what it's like, and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, it's not just a wrestling school. It's almost like a performance center with everything they've got there. Like I say, so professional, and it is scary, the talent that's coming through that gym and coming through that scene at the moment for sure. I want to touch upon some of your 2022 highlights. I know we've already spoken about one or two already, but first of all, you had a fantastic series of matches with Dale Johnson over at Evolution Wrestling for the middleweight title. You had an amazing title versus title match with Charlie Sterling over at Evolution as well. Tell us a bit about Evolution, because they're doing some pretty special things there, and you've got a long history with that company. And just going to bring up some graphics here, but this was your title versus title match against Charlie Sterling, who is an absolute beast. Let's be honest. And I'm not sure what happened during the match. I'm guessing this is the same match, but obviously the ring's a bit worse for wear there. And there you are with both championships. But Evolution, and tell us about what happened there.
Yeah, that was a pretty good day. I'm not sure if that's the first time I fought Charlie or not. I think it might be the first or second. I don't think we had I don't think we'd had a straight singles before. I think we might have been in like a multi-man or a tag match or something. But I'll talk about Evolution first.
Yeah.
I have to take my hat off to Rob, the promoter. He's always really had my back. He's from early on. I think I had my first singles match actually at Evolution Wrestling. That was against Brendan. Funny enough, I think that must have been 2015 or 2016 where I had my first singles. No, it would have been 2016. So I made my debut in front of an audience at Dragon Pro in the Rumble in January of 2016. But then not long after that, I made my singles, and thank you to Evolution. They gave me the platform, they gave me the opportunity to do that, which I'm forever grateful for.
Yeah.
They've always been there for me. Evolution they've been absolutely fantastic. I've done like camps with them where you go touring around like the local family parks and whatnot. We've done pontins and we've done all sorts, and they've always been happy to offer me regular work. But sometimes I'm looking like 2 bookings a month for them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not only with me, because they have helped it a lot of the boys and girls that have come through from like Dragon Pro and New Wave. It's almost like we've had like a bit of a connection with them without it being official, it feels like we've always kind of had, it's kind of been like a lot of the trainees and people starting off when we were at Dragon Pro and New Wave. Rob would be happy to kind of take us under his wing and give us the chance to have our matches at Evolution and try to help build us and make us better wrestlers.
Yeah. And what was going on in that match with Charlie Sterling? I don't know, the ring, the top rope seemed to, I don't know, did the ring just implode or something with the Brock Lesnar and Big Show make an appearance?
Nah.
I mean, how did that happen? That's crazy.
What happened was, what happened at the end of the match? At the end of the match, I think he might have hit me with something. I kicked out of it, and out of pure frustration, he untied the top rope, the top turnbuckle.
Right.
Which is funny though, because at the time it was taking far too long, and I was just led on the floor like, Charlie, come on, but he must have been there for like 60 seconds. I'm like, surely I have to stand up and do something now. But yeah, he untied it, and then because it was taking so long, I kind of got up to one knee. I was like, I'm gonna have to attack him from behind now. So I went to attack him, but as I went to attack him, he turnn around and went to tie the rope around my neck. And as he did that, he clocked me in the eye with a turnbuckle. Well,
I've got a picture. Look at this black. That's a shiner, isn't it? That's a doozy.
Yeah, that's the one. So I got clocked in that eye. It was that bad that it started coming under the opposite eye. But yeah, it was a good fun match. He's a great guy as well, Charlie. So talented, just ridiculously talented. In my one of the best in the UK by far.
Absolutely. And another highlight possibly of last year, I know you've had a ton of matches with Brendan White. We'll probably talk about Brendan throughout the course of this interview. And you started your career with Brendan. But am I right in thinking you had a hair versus hair match with Brendan White for Creation at some point last year? I mean, in all fairness, he didn't have a lot to lose in the first place, but I think you lost the match, didn't you? Tell us about that one.
Nah. So, it was weird.
Or did he lose? I can't remember.
Brendan lost the match, but it was like a hair versus hair match. But I can't remember what the story was now. Where I came out as Martin. I think I came out as Martin Kirby, so I had like a bald cap on. So I had a bald cap, and then he had a full head of hair. So it's meant to be. That's right. It was meant to be a hair versus hair match. It was going to be Brendan with like a long wig on, and I think they were going to give Martin Kirby a wig as well. But then Martin Kirby unfortunately couldn't make the show, so I moved from one match to the match with Brendan. Then I acted as Martin Kirby, so I had the bald cap on, and Brendan still had the long blonde locks. But yeah, that's the match where I cracked, where Brendan said the joke at the start, because I had my red jacket on. I had my red entrance jacket on, and I remember I watched this video about a week or two ago. It popped up on my Facebook feed, and I was stood on the top balcony with my red jacket on, and then we were kind of having a bit of a promo back and forth, where he was like downstairs in the ring looking up at me, and I was on the balcony. And I was thinking, we can't have a hair versus hair match because I haven't got any hair. This time I had the bald cap on. And so I was thinking, okay, so how about we do like a hair versus jacket match? If I lose, you can have my jacket. And then he said, oh yeah, so what did he say? With that jacket, I'll look like Brandon Technicolor Dreamcoat or something. And then from that, the promo went completely tits up, and then I started laughing, and I was like, oh, let's just start this match now. To walk downstairs then with no music playing, just like get in the ring.
Brilliant. Go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say then at the end of the match, to cut his hair off, I was given like shavers to shave his like a blonde wig.
I did have that picture, but I forgot to upload it. So yeah, great. Like I say, check out Harrison's socials for that picture. Another highlight for yourself, I'm guessing, would have been to wrestle in a TNT Extreme ring at Extreme Fields 2022 in October of last year. And once again, there's the man over on the left-hand side, Brendan White. Picture of yourself after the show. So we've mentioned RevPro being a top promotion, but TNT Extreme up in Liverpool, another amazing promotion, another top tier promotion, I would say, and a fantastic experience. And you got to wrestle, Brendan, for the All Wales Championship, a title I know you know very well. But that must have been a pretty cool experience. I know that Extreme Fields, they tend to get various promotions, usually from the Northwest. But this time they invited Pro Wrestling Chaos up there, and the two of you went at it in a TNT ring. So how was that for you?
It was good fun. It was a nice day out. It was me, Brendan, and Nico Angelo. The three of us travelled up together to it was Liverpool, wasn't it? Liverpool.
Indeed.
Liverpool, yeah. We travelled to Liverpool. It was a long day because I know there was plans to have like they normally do Extreme Fields where there's like bands playing, like rock bands and whatnot, and then they have like wrestling in between, so they kind of like switch back and forth with having bands and music on and having some wrestling action. But unfortunately, something happened where I think the bands couldn't make it. I don't know like the ins and outs, but the bands couldn't make it, or something happened with the music, so there ended up being no music. So it ended up being a full-on wrestling show. With like just a few breaks where the music was supposed to be. So there's like 2 matches and like a 15-minute break where there's meant to be a band playing. But yeah, no, the match with Brendan was great, really enjoyable. It's always nice wrestling Brendan because we both know that when it comes to fitness and stuff, we always try and push each other, especially when we went through the phase of going to CrossFit most mornings, or if we weren't available in the mornings and we go in the evenings, or if we had a show on the Saturday or the Sunday, then we go Saturday or Sunday morning together. And it was always like we'd always pair together and team up and try and like if he started slacking, then I'd be telling him, or if I started slacking, then he'd be trying to push me. So it's always nice getting in the ring with Brendan because it's almost like without saying it out loud, we both know it's like a test for each other.
Yeah.
And it's nice because the matches are gradually getting better and better and better between us. And then I think there's been one since that as well that was at Defend in Swansea.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that was for the All Wales Championship as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was good fun though. It's always nice having debuts, and it was a pleasure to be out there with TNT and to get to meet new people and bump into people that I'd heard of but hadn't met before, and nice to get chatting with new people. And yeah, there was that, and there was also the Rumble afterwards as well. So we went out into the Rumble afterwards, which is a good crack. Yeah, it was a nice day out. It was decent.
Yeah, absolutely. And TNT, definitely a promotion, doing some great things at the moment. And like I say, hopefully they'll invite you back sometime soon, no doubt. But I've got to ask you, what's going on in this picture here, Harry? Because I think good wrestling, I think there was G Money, yourself, Mike Bird, maybe somebody else, but you seem to be taking out your frustration on a road sign there, my friend. But add a bit of context to that, because anybody that's just seen that picture would probably think, what the hell's going on there? Obviously, the match went out into the street, and that road sign took the brunt of your frustration, but that looked like a lot of fun.
The road sign was chatting shit, John. For a bit of context to the photo, that was Good Wrestling's last show. That they'd announced that they'd had a rough couple of years and announced that was going to be their last show, and I was absolutely gutted, as with the boys, the wrestlers and the promoters, all devastated. It's such like a nice homely feel there. The wrestlers they had backstage and the fans, everyone was just always so like welcoming, and there's always a nice vibe. You know what I mean? You don't find that. Not that I'm going to name names, but you don't find that in every in every sort of backstage area. You know what I mean? You don't find that vibe, but Good, it was always there. Like, even from when I first got booked, when it's just like a random one where there was meant to be years ago now where I first got booked for Good. Someone didn't turn up someone locally from me didn't turn up, or they didn't want to come that day that was booked on the show. So they were like, look, for half the wage, do you want to wrestle and do this? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Of course, like I'll wrestle for nothing, you know what I mean? Like I'm happy just to be here. But then from that, I end up being one of the like main used wrestlers, and then I end up going on to this show now and wrestling in the final show in the main event against G Money, and it was class. And I absolutely loved the match, and it was a pleasure to do the dance with Gene as well. You know what I mean? Like, both me and Gene had such big parts to play for Good Wrestling, and I feel like it was kind of directed towards us, and we helped Good go in the direction that it did. And to have that payoff match with us too for the Good grand prize, I thought it was a great laugh. So it sort of spilled outside because it's known at Good that once on the show it'll go outside, so you can kind of tease the crowd like, "Do you want to go outside? Do you want to go outside?" And they always know it's coming at some point. And there was we went outside because we planned to get a few of the memories of Good in the last match. So we wanted to try and plan certain parts during the match where big things that had happened in Good in the past. Like we did a tribute to Ryan Smile, where in his singles match with Mike Bird, where they went outside, and Mike went to send Ryan across the road, but as he sent him across the road, he stopped in front of the road and like looked left and right for traffic. And then as he saw that it was safe to go, he'd run across the road and then he threw himself into the wall. So it was like in the main event, we wanted to get like Lycos involved, we wanted to get Bird involved. And then to explain the photo, that's what happened there. There was to be honest, for that specific photo that you captured. There's not much context for that. I went on a mad one, so Mike sent me and Gene across the road. We threw ourselves into the wall, and then from that, then I saw the camera guy was following me, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and attack that sign over there. And then about 5 seconds after that, a car came along. I like ran towards the car, and the car didn't know what was going on. And some guy dressed in pants and like wrestling boots is running towards my car. So
hey, yeah, that's it. If you're not familiar, if you're not a wrestling fan, you see that going on, you're gonna want to go the other way, aren't you? Put the car into reverse, and it's like, what have I stepped into here?
What's going on here? But it was a great fun match to end the amazing life that the Good Hand, and I really do hope that it comes back. Just for me, of course, because I'd love to go back there and experience that again, but also maybe for upcoming wrestlers to potentially have the opportunity that I had years ago, and then potentially have the run that I did at Good. You know what I mean? Like to know that it's possible, and to go from waking up one morning and going to a show and not having anything planned to then suddenly someone not turning up, then you fill in and wrestle for half a wage, then suddenly you end up being like in the main event of most of their matches, of most of their shows.
Yeah,
it's just a crazy experience. I found that I learned loads through Good wrestling alone. Like a lot of these promotions really looked after me, and Good was definitely one of the top ones to take good care of me and offer me a lot of the opportunities that other places didn't,
Yeah, absolutely. And so you won the Tournament of Excellence that G Money put together, and then you faced G Money for the G Money Certificate of Excellence. And of course, having won that, you kind of became the first ever Good champion, didn't you? The Good Grand Prix champion. And I do actually have, I think this is a more recent picture of you with the Good belt there. And I think that may be your second reign. It certainly looks more recent, but obviously those are memories that you're going to cherish forever for sure.
Yeah, damn right. I don't think I was holding the belt there. I think the belt was on show, and I picked it up.
Gotcha.
I only got that. I only won that belt once, but then I lost it then because there was like this one event where you all go in and you open an envelope, and whatever happens, or whatever you read in the envelope happens. And then my envelope said, the next person you step into the ring with, you have to have a match with for your championship or something along those. And then Chris Brooks runs into the ring quickly behind me and rolls me up and pins me. And so from there, that's where I started to have my bit of a heel run at Good then, because I was just always like pissed off at the fact that I lost it unfairly, and I didn't think it was acceptable to lose my title that way. But yeah, it was a really fun storyline to run. And again, I can only thank Good for that.
Yeah, 100%. Tell us a bit about your wrestling fandom and how you first kind of fell in love with pro wrestling. And I know you've been a lifelong wrestling fan because look at that gentleman there. That is a young Harrison Bennett, isn't it? And playing with his wrestling figures. Yeah, I dig deep when I do my research. I dig deep. But tell us a bit about your wrestling fandom, and obviously you were a fan of the figures as well.
Yeah, man. Like it's even now thinking back to, like, I'm 25 now. I'm almost 26, and every time people ask me, I think I can't even remember. And it kills me, because I remember when I was younger, I used to love watching wrestling and playing wrestling on the PlayStation, and I remember like my dad would, well, back in the day when you like pay-per-view and you pay like $9.99, like,
Yeah.
and you get it on the actual Sky Sports pay-per-view channel, like this massive, tiny little block TV about half a meter wide, but about a meter like long. And we used to stay up and we'd watch like all the Royal Rumbles and like WrestleManias. They're always so much fun. Used to have all the DVDs and whatnot. But the way I got into wrestling was more so like I wanted to be like an actor at first. I wanted to be an actor, and then I remember being sat at the dinner table with my mother, and she was like, "Well, you used to love wrestling as a kid." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I did used to love wrestling. I used to actually adore wrestling." And she's like, "Well, why don't you go and give wrestling a try?" And I thought, like, nah, that's not possible. Like, the people I used to watch on TV, they're like superstars, you know what I mean? Like, that's not possible. Like, the way I used to see them on TV, I'd just be like gobsmacked, like watching like Randy Orton come out and like Evolution, seeing like John Cena and all these like incredible wrestlers come out, Edge. And I was thinking, like, I could never be that. That's not me, you know what I mean? But then, yeah, I thought, why not give it a shot? You know, if I don't try, then I'll never know.
Yeah. And going back into my research, and I think Dragon Pro, who were the predecessors of New Wave, were they your training school back in the day? Were they kind of quite important in the early years?
Who was that then? Sorry, Dragon Pro?
Yeah.
Dragon Pro, yeah, Dragon Pro. That's where, well, I say that's where I started, but that's where I was based when I trained. But going back to the conversation I had with my mother, so after I did a bit of research, she found Kamikaze Pro, and I was doing a bit of research myself, and I typed in like UK wrestling and whatnot, and all that used to come up was like Pete Dunne, Ryan Smile, Pete Dunne, Ryan Smile, Pete Dunne, Ryan Smile. That's all I used to see on like Google, or if I typed into YouTube like UK wrestling, there's like Pete Dunne, Ryan Smile all the time. So straight away I thought, well, these two guys must be good, you know what I mean? So I saw that they were based in Kamikaze, and I saw Kamikaze was in Birmingham. So I managed to get my mum to take me to Kamikaze Pro in Birmingham one evening, and God bless her, she did take me up there. It was about a 2.5 hour drive there, 2.5 hour drive back. And then it was only until we got there, I had my session, and afterwards James, the promoter, and who the guy who was training us on the day, he said, "You guys are aware that there's like a promotion in South Wales, don't you?" And God, to this day, I'll never forget the look give me. I'll never forget. I was just so like buzzing to go to Birmingham and go to Kamikaze Pro, and then when he said that, and my mum looked at me, was like, "Oh, so there's one like on our doorstep." I was like, "Sorry."
It was a good job that he said, though. You know, it probably saved you a few miles in the future.
Yeah, damn right. Yeah, damn right. But I'm pretty sure the following week I was straight down to Dragon Pro, because we were training in the Newport Leisure Centre at the time, again under Mike Bird. And then after that, we went to a unit in Somerton, again in Newport, until we then eventually moved to Cardiff. Yeah. But yeah, Dragon Pro is where I was based. Like I said, that one-off Kamikaze session was my first ever session, and I learned that there was one on our doorstep. But I still am happy that I went to Dragon Pro because of, again, what we discussed earlier, of just the names that are there as well. Just me and my lack of research. It's great that Pete Dunne and Ryan Small were in Birmingham, but the names we have down here are, you know, just equally as good.
Absolutely. And I'm going to bring up some pictures. Look at this handsome young chap there. Early versions of Beano. There's yourself and Flash there. But like so you said. Go on.
That's not Flash. That's Sparky. That is.
My apologies if you're watching. Yeah, absolutely. But you know, that was obviously one of the early kind of characters. One of the early, I think, obviously Beano, or Man Like Beano. But obviously inspired by the rave scene. A little bit of a dancer. But I mean, those early days, you know, you did start to branch out quite quickly as well. You were wrestling for several promotions within the first couple of years. And certainly putting in the reps. But more than anything, like I say, it was a red hot scene back then as well. But looked like you were having a ton of fun.
Oh, it was really good fun. And well, now you spoke the beans on that being Flash, John. I can say that that was during the time where there was like the Cruiserweight Classic going on. The Cruiserweight Classic, I think.
Yeah.
It was cool. And so Flash, I think, was wrestling Zack Sabre Jr. in that match, in the match that he had in the Cruiserweight Classic, and he got injured. So Flash was out at the time. I think I was just starting up the Man Like Beano. I think I might have had a few matches, maybe about a year in, maybe just a bit less. But Flash got injured in that. I think he damaged his shoulder and he was out for quite a long time. But Flash being Flash, he wanted to stay involved and he wanted to do as much as he can. So I had heard that he had mentioned that he wanted to try and do some work with me. Again, me not knowing really where he was coming from with it and what his plans and ideas were. But when it got pitched to me, we're like, so basically Flash Morgan Webster is going to come down and he's going to be like Sparky, like your kind of sideman. To me at the time, I was like, yes, like that's incredible. You know what I mean? Flash Morgan Webster wants to be my sideman. Yeah, and it was great. Again, just like learning so much from him, like any little bits, like there was like feedback you had to give, and even being out there with him, I could that's where I found I got a bit of my wrestling confidence from. Where I'd go out with him, I'd see him going crazy and doing his things and shaking and screaming and whatnot and acting like a fool. And I feel like that's where I kind of got my character from then, because we just sort of bounced off each other.
Yeah.
But to get that opportunity to wrestle so closely with Flash was a great start for me. Like I got handed so much so early on, like with the matches that I was put in and the people that I was working with. But then I think it all came down to hard work. I think that it wasn't me personally that you wanted to work with, but I think it's word of mouth, because at the time I was the James Ellis, you know what I mean? I'm the James Ellis of then, where I was the one that was training all the time, working hard, going to shows when I could, doing everything I can to be the best that I can be. And he wanted to help out the person that was training the hardest, you know, and putting the most amount of effort in.
Yeah. And you were certainly doing that, like I say, putting in the reps, getting noticed, getting put onto a lot of people's radar as well. And ICW, they came to Cardiff in 2017, didn't they? And I think you had a couple of matches. I've got the details here, but I think you was in a tag match for the first show that you took part in, and then you wrestled none other than Joe Hendry the next time they were down. But ICW, back then, they would have been one of the top promotions. They still are one of the top promotions in the UK, but they would have been doing some fantastic stuff down here, like I say, South Wales, and getting to wrestle for ICW and Joe Hendry. That's pretty special.
Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah, it's really crazy. So yeah, the first, I think it wasn't that long afterwards. I think there was literally like a week between the two of them. I'm sure there was, where they had the first one in Bristol, which is when I tagged with Brendan. And then after that, then I got asked to have the singles with Joe Hendry, which I was obviously buzzing about. So I was a huge fan of Joe anyway. But yeah, that was probably one of my main ones where I thought like, oh shit, like this is it. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of one of those make or break moments. But it's funny again that you've mentioned ICW, because during that match with Joe Hendry, Leighton Buzzard came out with him as his sideman, a young Leighton Buzzard. Yeah. And then I hadn't seen Leighton for years. I hadn't seen him for ages. And then it was great to see him yesterday at the RevPro show that I made an appearance on. So the how much he's done now from what I saw him back then is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, a real transformation. I think he had a banger of a match against Will Ospreay, didn't he? And Will Ospreay kind of put him over after the match. But yeah, for sure, he's really come on. I think he's the ICW world champion at the minute and looks $1 million for sure. But like I say, I think 2017 and 2018 were real kind of breakout years for you. And you had your Progress debut at the Dome in late 2017, still doing great things in Dragon Pro, having banger of matches in Pro Wrestling Chaos, a regular fixture, as you said, with Good Wrestling. So 2018 was kind of a bit of a breakout year for you. Did you feel that, around that time you were really starting to get some momentum, getting a lot of buzz about yourself, and things were looking pretty good, weren't they?
Yeah, things were looking pretty good, but then there's also the side of how professional wrestling can be like a roller coaster of emotions. Yeah. It's amazing having all these big things happen and feeling like, right, this is excellent. But then as soon as you have them, you kind of expect them to carry on and to continue. Then as soon as they don't, then you think, well, what am I doing wrong? You know, well, how come I had this the one day, then nothing? You know what I mean? And then it's almost like this. It's almost like you're being spoon fed. You know what I mean? You're being like fed little bits at a time. It's like, okay, here's like a little taster here to see how you perform here, and then have a few months off or have like a year off. Then we'll try you again now, but with this person. You know what I mean? But it's taken me 8 years to understand that now. But going through it at the time, it was awesome to have all these huge opportunities and thinking, that's great, you know, progress live at the dome, buzzing, I can come here and I can prove myself. And then suddenly, like, I check my bookings, then next month I got no bookings. You know what I mean? So it's hard to ride the wave and ride the high.
Yeah.
When you need to have continuous work on to be able to really get into it and really feel it. And as much as I did that year, I feel like I couldn't really get into it as much simply because I didn't have enough regular work on, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
yeah.
It makes it so much easier. If you're wrestling every single weekend, you can go in, you're full of ideas and you're full of life and you're ready to go. But then when you have like a huge thing, you're riding this high for a week, and then before you know it, it's like you're ready to wrestle on the weekend, but you got nothing on. And then the next week goes by, and then it's like you got nothing on. And then before you know it, you're back down here again.
Yeah.
When you kind of shoot up, but then you shoot up, then you're back down again, and you're back up again. Then something amazing happens, and then suddenly you have nothing on. It's just it's as amazing as it was, and I'm not shooting it down at all. I enjoyed everything I did, and I'm forever grateful for all the opportunities that were given to me. And they're all amazing memories as well. All amazing memories. I'll never forget the matches that I've had. But that was probably one of the biggest years for me as Man Like Bino. Yeah, as Man Like Bino, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. And what about this match here? I think a match that a lot of your fans, friends, and followers remember very fondly was that 30-minute Ironman match against Mark Haskins.
Yeah.
And we had Alex Perez, who's watching us live via YouTube, memories of your 30-minute Ironman match with Mark Haskins in October of 2018 with Pro Wrestling Chaos. The Chaos Elements in Bristol at the Hannam Community Centre. I mean, I think out of all the matches that you've had, certainly in that year, that has to be up there with one of your favourite matches, not just of that year, but possibly of all time, against an incredible pro in Mark Haskins. And I think you won 7 falls to 6 in that 30 minutes. So an incredible match, a great outcome for yourself. What are your memories of that match and wrestling Haskins in that 30-minute Ironman?
I'm pretty sure Martin knocked all my memories out of me during that.
Really? I'm not surprised. He does hit hard, doesn't he?
It was great though. Again, like going back to saying like being always grateful for the opportunities I was given. I can never thank the team at Chaos, Dave, Nick, and Rob for giving me that like year-long feud with Mark Haskins, who again is like a great guy. He's an awesome guy. He's got it's just amazing to get to work with him on and off through the whole year, whether it be in like singles matches or the Ironman match we had, or like we bumped into each other at the Rumble, had a little bit of thing in the Rumble. You know what I mean? There's always that little bit going on between us.
Yeah.
But what made it so much easier, because I was still fairly early on, but it made it a lot easier for me. Him being such a nice guy, such a nice guy, who's so easy to chat to, so easy to work with, and him being one of the main guys again, that definitely helped me build to what I am now. And it's interesting that you mentioned Mark Haskins, because talking about like the intensity build up that I found in myself recently, that I think was the start of that fire. You know what I mean? Really? Having those matches with Mark Haskins was definitely the start of me finding my more aggressive side, rather than coming out and taking the piss for the majority of the match. It was more like he brought that out of me. he definitely brought that side out of my character. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of somebody else that will probably bring that intensity out of your character, and I had the privilege. My first ever Progress show was in Birmingham, March 2019. And like I say, coming up 4 years ago, and it's my first ever Progress show, chapter 86. We was all ready for the start of the show, and there was a dark match. Out comes yourself. Fantastic. First time I've seen Bino in the ring. Let's see what he has to offer, and who should be your opponent. But at the time, he was the NXT UK champion, Pete Dunne, coming out in his hometown. It was a dark match, so you won't see this anywhere. So the fans inside the O2 in Birmingham had the privilege of seeing this. But the pop that Pete Dunne got when he came out through them curtains, and the match that you two put on, I will remember, for the rest of my days. And like I said to you before we went live, that match, that pop, just seeing you and Pete Dunne, completely unexpected appearance from Pete Dunne as well. Obviously, he was doing Progress a favour, signed to WWE, the NXT UK champion. But take us back to that time. I mean, first of all, and I think if we had a question about that, let's have a quick look. Yeah, here we go from Ashley Clements, friend of the show, fan of yours. How did you find out you were going to be working Pete Dunne at Progress in Birmingham? So I think Ashley was there as well. Give us your side of events, because it was an awesome day.
Yeah, it was a mad day, absolutely crazy day. So in fact, I'll take you over the course of the weekend. So whatever day that fell on, whether it was a Saturday or a Sunday, the day before. Also, the week before, I knew that there was a gang of us going to help out at a Progress show in Birmingham. I knew what it entailed. There's normally just like setting the chairs up, setting the ring up, being ringside during the show, and making sure the rest of the kept safe and whatnot, and making sure the crowd are happy, and and making sure everything's in line. So it's like, yeah, that's fine. But the day before, I had a rave that I had booked for months with some family and some friends of mine. So I thought, that's fine. I can go to the rave and then I can go to Progress the next day. That's fine. Like I'm just doing the ring crew, so it'd be fairly easy. I'll get like a half decent sleep, and if I have to sleep on the way up there, I'll sleep on the way up there. That's fine. Whatever. Go to Bristol. Go to the rave. Get back at stupid o'clock in the morning. Don't get much sleep. Wake up after a few hours of sleep, and then Brendan was come to pick me up from Newport. So whatever, get up, have a shower, get dressed and whatnot. We were meeting Brendan. So I was meeting Brendan somewhere. So I got to the end of my drive, and a tree had fallen down over my drive because it was terrible weather that evening or that morning. I was like, Brendan, like again, I was still completely pissed at this time. I was like, Brendan, I'll tell you what, mate, I'm just gonna stay home. I'm gonna stay home, and I'll just message whoever it is to apologize and say that I can't make it. And Brendan, thankfully, and honestly, I can never thank Brendan enough for being like, don't be stupid, I'm come to pick you up now. It's like, oh, first, okay. So Brendan then left our meetup, our pickup point, and he drove to Newport then to come and grab me for the Progress show. So we drove up there, and I was progressively getting better during the day. I was fine. I was having some water and whatnot, and we stopped off a few times to get a few bites to eat on the way up to the O2. Anyway, we got there. We did the ring crew, set the chairs up, set the tables up, set the ring and all. Got all the room looking proper and tidy. And then before the show, they were like, "Look, you got an hour. If you want to go grab a bite to eat, go and grab a bite to eat. Have a walk in the city, do what you want to do. Go grab a drink or something." So sure, whatever. A small group of us went for a walk to like the town, just grab some food and stuff. So after a rave, I'm thinking, lovely, gonna go here now and get some chips, some chicken nuggets, maybe a kebab, and a can of Coke. You know what I mean? I was laughing. I was thinking, that's great. So
all the unhealthy stuff, yeah.
They went that weekend. They all went out the window. But that's lovely. I'm gonna take us back now. I'm gonna sit down. And I sit down ringside now and eat my chips and all before I ring through the show. So I walk back in, and since we've been gone, a few more people have turned up. I noticed Pete was there. Walked past, gave him a fist bump, said hello, and then sat down, had my food. As I was eating my food, it's like chips and like garlic mayo dripping down me. It was great. I looked over, and next to the ring there was Pete and Damien Dunne chatting. Again, I wasn't really taking much notice. I was being observant, just looking around what was going on. I noticed Pete chatting to Damien. And then as I look up and look at the pair of them, I see them both look at me at the same time. And it's you know when you know someone's talking about you without actually knowing that they're talking about you, you think like, okay, I look back down my food, I'm thinking like, right, I'm thinking too much about this now. So I carry on eating my food. And then I see that they disband, Pete goes one way, Damien starts walking towards me. In the first question Damien asked, before even saying hello to me, because I hadn't said hello to him yet, he came over and asked if I had my gear on me. And I sort of looked at him with like a mouthful of food and was like, yeah, why? He was like, put your food down because Pete said he wants to wrestle you before the show.
Mate.
And I was like, nah. I was like, nah. No, he didn't. Like, I was like, Damien, shut up. But you know what I mean? Because I'm on quite close terms with Damien. He's a good geezer. And I was like, oh, shut up, Damien. You know what I mean? Sit down. But nah, he was like, Harry, I'm being serious. Like, in kind of talks, he is a very jokey geezer, and he was being dead serious. So at this point now, I was thinking, oh, okay, I got to put his food down. And then it was all kind of like, I heard it here, I heard it there, but nothing was official. No one had actually come up to me and told me that this was happening. So now we're about half an hour before the show starts. I'm thinking, right, no one's told me. I've got my Progress ring crew jacket on. I'm ready to ring crew. I thought it was just like him taking a piss. I thought nothing of it, whatever. So before the show starts, I pop to the toilet. I'm thinking like, that's weird that was said. That's really odd that he came up to me and say something like that. Whatever. As I leave the toilet, one of the other ring crew boys are walking towards me, and he said, "It's happening." And I looked at him at the same time. I was like, "What is happening?" He's like, "Yeah, it's happening. Get your gear." I was like, "Mate, the show starts in like half an hour." So Brendan was like, "Right, I'm going to go and get your gear." So Brendan sprinted all the way to the car park that was like 10, 15 minutes away to grab my suitcase, bring my suitcase back. I got taken backstage to have a chat with Pete about the match and whatnot. And yeah, from there we probably had about 20 minutes, literally. I got suited and booted and ready to go. And yeah, and then the fridge door opened.
Unbelievable. And as I said, just being a spectator, like I say, it was completely unexpected to see Pete Dunne come through them curtains. When his music started, the place just erupted. You would have been in the ring by that point. You must have had some pretty big goosebumps on your arms when Pete Dunne's music started, and that pop. Yeah. I'll never forget that pop for as long as I live.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember being stood in the corner of the ring. And as the music hit, even within like a second, obviously, all the Birmingham fans all know as soon as the first note hit of his song, the first like bit of bass hit in the O2 Academy, the floor's rumbling, the cheers are going. And I remember Brendan was like ring crewing on my corner of the ring, so he was on like my ring post, about 3 or 4 yards away. And as that happened, I normally keep my character pretty well, but I broke. I broke. I must say that broke me. So I turned and looked at Brendan, and I kind of pulled like a oh shit, like uh-oh. But it's all awesome memories. They're all great memories, all wicked memories.
Absolutely. And like I say, I think that year just got better. Like I say, you'd already won the good grand prize title. You'd wrestled Pete Dunne. You won the All Wales title 1 week later. So 1 week after facing Pete Dunne, you won the All Wales title. You then went on to win the Pro Wrestling Chaos tag titles. You was on a real high point in 2019. And I'm going to bring up a picture here. Now, I showed you this before we went live, but first of all, there's yourself, I think, with the All Wales Championship, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the Good Wrestling Grand Prize.
Is it? Right, okay. Couldn't quite make it out. But and then there you are with all the gold.
Yes.
Like I say, you got the All Wales Championship, the Good Championship, the tag titles for Pro Wrestling Chaos, and the Evolution Middleweight Championship. And like I say, some great photos there for sure. And then it got better, from there. WWE came a call in, NXTUK. Obviously, we had Takeover Cardiff at the end of August in 2019. Now, I was there again, and one of the best shows I've ever been to. Like I say, from top to bottom, the really, really loud fans in the Motor Point. Obviously, you had Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan winning the tag titles. You had that amazing match between Walter and Tyler Bate in the main event for the title. So, I mean, an incredible weekend. And then the following day, they had the set of tapings, and yourself had a match, didn't you? Who was your tag partner again? I can't quite remember.
Me and Danny Jones.
Danny Jones against Imperium. Thank you for reminding me. Well, here we go. This would have reminded me here because I've got the picture of the two of you either before or after your match, but looking very happy with yourself. And I've got to say that the tan is looking pretty cool in that picture as well, for sure. But how did you first appear on WWE's radar? How did they get in touch with you for that weekend and for that gig?
So it's funny speaking about the match I had with Pete in Birmingham. After the match, we went backstage and I had a quick chat with Pete. And there was obviously the thing that the whole hashtag nothing happened because they weren't supposed to know that Pete wrestled because he wasn't supposed to be wrestling.
It was all top secret, yeah.
It was kind of kept secret. Like, it didn't get out too much, I don't think. But he let me know that, like, because he kind of has to make them aware of what he's done. So he said he'd put my name forward. So he said that I'd kind of be on the radar, which is pretty cool to hear.
Yeah.
Then there's also, like, I had links through your Wild Boars and your Flash Morgans and your Mark Andrews, your Eddie Dennis. Those links were always there. But when I first got asked, I was at Boomtown, another festival. I know a lot of these stories include like festivals and raves. That's not my entire life, I promise, but it's a big part of my life. Yeah, I was at Boomtown Festival with my cousin, and we were on our way. We had been dancing somewhere when we were at a certain stage, and then we were walking somewhere, and then I had like a notification come up on my phone, said like something. I had like an email from WWE, and at the time, obviously, I was thinking like, nah, like I'm seeing things, you know what I mean? That's not happening. But then I opened it and clicked on it, and then it said like, we'd like to invite you to the performance center on this date. Is it okay if you please let us know if you're available and happy to do this? And I was just there, like I was so happy as being around great people and enjoying some good music at a festival, and that happened. And then I was just like, what is going on? I turned to my cousin. I'm like, oh, just so you know, I'm gonna go and wrestle with these boys on this date. You know what I mean? I was just buzzing, and I was just running around, saying to everyone about it, telling the world.
Absolutely, who wouldn't? Yeah,
it was nuts. But then when it came, it was a really, really fun experience. We were in the performance center from Monday to Friday. And then Monday to Thursday, sorry, then Friday I think was a bit of a training day where they had the people that were in the matches and stuff go to the training and whatnot and go through a few bits. And then the Saturday was the takeover, I believe.
I think so, yeah, if I remember rightly, yeah, because I think there was All In the following day. So yeah, it was kind of a bit of a double header, but I know I'm pretty sure that was the Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So that was the Saturday in the Motor Point.
Tapings on the Sunday.
That's right. Then there's like a full day of tapings on the Sunday, then which ran through from like midday on to like the evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a wicked experience. Yeah, really good fun.
Absolutely. And not only, I would say, apologies to Danny Jones for momentarily forgetting your name there. If I see you backstage at a show, I will apologise in person. But like I say, you had your match against Imperium. And then I don't know if it was the same day or maybe the next day when they did another set of tapings. Didn't you come out during a match as a medic as well? I seem to remember you coming out as a medic. I'm pretty sure I was watching my TV and I thought, oh, the Spino, what's he doing there? And he sort of started, and I can't remember, you might need to correct me here, but did you take a bump during that? So I don't know. Tell us a bit about the whole coming out as a medic.
No, so that was also that was in the main event of the takeover.
Right.
That was in Walter against Tyler.
Of course it was. Yes.
Yeah. So that was actually the day. That would have been the day before.
On the Saturday, yeah.
I made my appearance. Yeah. So again, that was all very last minute. I think like the main event was almost like close to going on, and they were like, "Oh yeah, so we actually need a medic for this match." And then I was kind of put forward, and I thought, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." So I had to run around like asking all the wrestlers for like, "Has anyone got a black t-shirt, or has anyone got like a black t-shirt and black trousers?" And then I had to try and find like a medic bag to go. But yeah, it was fun though. It was fun to get to experience what it was like being in front of the big crowd before the Sunday afternoon. Even with that, because Joel, the ref, and it was the ref in the main event. If you go back and watch it now, I still think I might have missed my cue because I went down to help. Tyler. I think I might have been taking too long. I went down to help Tyler, and as I'm there for about maybe 10, 15 seconds, because I was still like concentrating on getting this right. I did not want to mess up. I was going down trying to check on Tyler and whatnot, and then I heard Bino. I look up and Joel's there in the ring saying like, "You can go back now. Go back."
Right.
But it was until I watched it back myself where he was like, "Medic." But in that time, it was like going in one ear and out the other. I didn't have a clue that he was even saying medic. He was saying medic. And then I heard, Bino. Then I looked
That's
at the
right.
was like,
yeah. I couldn't. Like I say, obviously, didn't. I completely forgot that was part of the main event, of course. Yeah, and he'd just taken, I think, a power bomb against the ring post from Walter, and that's when you came out. And another little fun fact about your match against Pete Dunne and that whole show in Birmingham, because I think you crewed the rest of the show, and you said Brendan was there. But one other person that was part of the ring crew that day, I don't know if you remember, but a certain Giselle Shaw was part of the ring crew that day as well. And of course, she's gone on to fantastic things with Progress and now Impact Wrestling. But I remember that because she was stood next to me most of the time throughout the whole show. So, but I digress. Did you get any feedback from WWE after that weekend? And did they maybe suggest that they'd be in touch? Was there any mention of it going further with WWE after that appearance?
No, not really. I think there was always so much going on. It was such a hectic week with the build up to Takeover and the long day of tapings that I didn't really want to feel like I was getting in the way. You know what I mean? So I kind of laid low and went there. I trained when I had to train. I used the ring when there was free ring time during the week, and then a lot of the weekend was kind of letting the big boys do what they had to do. You know what I mean? More so than like the producers and stuff. There was like Shawn Michaels and Triple H just walking around backstage. Like I didn't want to like get in their faces and be like, "Oh, is there any feedback for me?" You know what I mean? Like it's not like the independent scene, like where you can just ask people for feedback, or you can ask people to watch your matches. Like I'm sure if they had something to say that was good or bad, that they'd come and approach me and say that was good or that was bad. But it was nice I got to meet them. But I had no intentions on trying to nag them for like feedback and stuff, because I kind of gathered that they wanted to be left alone and sort of get the production down and make sure everything was put right, rather than me going there for a one-off and then trying to be there, putting at the t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like, excuse me. So yeah, I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, a wonderful experience, an unforgettable experience, and I'm sure you took away a lot from that weekend. And I knew I had a picture of yourself with the All Wales Championship, and there it is there, and it's a beautiful bout. You won it in March 2019, beating Mike Bird, and then you lost it the following February to the current and the reigning champion Brendan White. I've got the details here. Let's see, 336 days, a hell of a reign. And I mean, the All Wales Championship has become a very prestigious, very, let's say, honoured championship that's been around since the Dragon Pro days. But to have held that championship for that length of time, and like I say, some of the people that you faced whilst you were the champion, Wolfgang, Elijah, Ilya Dragunov, and then, of course, Brendan, who dethroned you and is still the current champion. But a great list of names there and a fantastic run over what was nearly a whole year, Harry.
Yeah, it's going back to saying how lucky I was when I was first starting, or even halfway through my career, where I was kind of handed all these huge opportunities to really test my abilities, and with people like you said, like Ilya, Wolfgang, it was just awesome to get to share the ring with them. And then with people like that, I feel like I can approach and ask them for feedback because A, I've been in the ring with them, and B, I've had the chance to plan, I've had the chance to chat with them, so it's a bit easier to approach them and ask them about things that I'm doing right or doing wrong. And I have to give a huge thanks to Dragon Pro for handing me those opportunities. It's a lot down to based again from all the hard work that I put in. And it's nice now to see that New Wave are also offering that same thing where they have a training academy and stuff. And then for the newer people coming through, or even like Chaos, for example, against Jay Joshua go up against Trent Seven at the last Chaos class. And that was just a great moment for me, where I felt like I was kind of one of the only ones that was being given those opportunities back then. Not that I felt like I didn't deserve them, and I'll honestly tell you that because I was working my ass off. But it's nice now to see that a bit further down the line, everyone's getting the same opportunities, and there's more plans for this year where I know where some of the boys and some of the girls are going to be wrestling like big names that can help them have that boost that I felt I had in 2018 and 2019,
100%. And we'll finish off with some listener questions that have come through, if I can find the right slide. So this one here that came in before we went live from Darren, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. Which wrestlers would you love to face that you haven't done so already? So I know that you're branching out, you're making debuts all over the place in 2022 and 2023, facing new opponents. And I'm sure a lot of them are thrilled to be facing you. But are there any wrestlers that you haven't wrestled so far, maybe in the UK or further afield, that you'd like to work sometime soon?
It's quite a difficult question because coming from a training academy and through the experiences that I had, I always remember, don't get me wrong, it's great wrestling. It's always great wrestling, like your friends and stuff like that. But then being given opportunities like I was given against bigger names was just insane. And it's a feeling that I may not be able to have in wrestling again, you know what I mean? So, not that I probably have the same powers that had to me with the real big names, but I'd like to wrestle some of the people coming through the training academy, you know what I mean? To potentially help bring them on and to help them find themselves in their character, or find themselves in a better light when it comes to their wrestling character, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's one person that come to my head straight away when I saw this question, and when you just read it out to me, is Connor Mills.
Yeah.
It was meant to be happening at Modern Nomad, I think, back last year, but unfortunately something happened and the card had to get shuffled around. But it is happening, I think, next month at Creation. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be, I think it's early March. In fact, it's probably 2 weeks' time.
Yep, just around the corner. And let's see, we did have a few more questions that came through a bit earlier on. So just saying, Facebook user. So what are your top 5 goals in 2023? So do you have any goals? And I know a lot of wrestlers don't like to kind of say what their goals are, or don't like to make goals, kind of setting up false hope. But do you have any goals in particular, whatever that might mean to you?
Yeah, based more on a personal level, maybe less based on wrestling. Like with my personal life, maybe I found that I've concentrated a lot more on work nowadays, which isn't a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I've been concentrating a lot on my like shoot job and concentrating on being the best I can be at that. And I sometimes, when I get in my own head, I kind of feel like I might have put wrestling on the back burner, and I don't want to do that. I need to kind of try and help myself and bring that fire back to where it was. Like, not even that it's gone out, the fire's still there. I still want to be the best I can be. I want to be the best in the country, sorry, my husband's just walked in, just shouted hello through the front door. Yeah, so I wouldn't say I've got top 5 goals, but I say my main goal is to probably commit more to wrestling, but to start that, it would be to have to lower the hours that I'm working and concentrate more on getting to training and going to shows, being more active on social media. There's a lot that goes into it, but I had that. I had that, but unfortunately, it kind of dropped when I moved out. I've got my own place now.
Yeah.
I had to concentrate more on work, but I feel like I can definitely bring back that wrestling. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And final thing from me, really, and I noticed this on your Twitter. I hope you don't mind me bringing it up, but I think this might kind of illustrate kind of where you are. And it's your tweet, underrated. That term can die because I'm not underrated. I'm just simply underused. So book Bennett, and I think that kind of sums up your journey, doesn't it? Really, it's that I think that people have always known that you've been a top talent, and I think anybody that's seen you work, anybody that's worked with you, anybody that's booked you, anybody that's watched you, will say that you're easily one of the top talents in the UK, and it's just kind of getting yourself out there a little bit more. And I think you've just kind of summed it up really, that that's something you need to focus on, is kind of getting your presence out there a bit more, because you are an extraordinary talent. But give us a little bit of context behind this tweet, this post that I think was from last year, and it's pinned to the top of your Twitter.
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, to be honest with you. Like, just people always saying, like, even if it's like in promos or training, or if you go to shows, and people always say you're underrated, or the best one is, this is going to be your year. That's like a phrase thrown around in wrestling a lot. This is going to be my year. This is going to be your year. And then everyone's telling each other it's going to be each other's year. And then when they tell you enough, you think, this is going to be my year. And going back to what I said about the roller coaster of emotions, where they big you up to the point where it's going to be like, this is my year. This is my year. And then nothing happens. Then you feel so deflated and you feel so out of the game. And it's like, well, what do I have to do to change,
Yeah.
And you end up doing loads. And then you end up feeling on top of the world, and then everyone's saying, you're underrated. But like, I know what I'm capable of doing. I know I'm a good wrestler, and I know I can hang with anyone out there. So it's when people say underrated, it's like, nah, I'm not underrated. Like, I am rated highly, and people know that I'm a good wrestler. I know that I'm a good wrestler, but I'm just not used, and I'm not given the opportunities now to show this new and updated Harrison Bennett of what I'm capable of doing.
Absolutely, 100%. And like I say, one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on this podcast for so long is because I know what an extraordinary talent you are. And like I say, you don't need me to tell you that. But before we kind of ask you for your socials and say fond farewell, just need to remind my viewers who my next guest is. And we've spoken about it quite a lot already. But I've got the workhorse, Bronco, Brendan White, coming onto the show this coming Thursday. Now, let's just move that banner slightly. This coming Thursday, 8 p.m. sharp UK time. The man behind New Wave Wrestling, the man behind New Wave Academy, one half of the Greedy Souls, and probably one of the most talented wrestlers in the UK. And like I say, doing amazing things, not just in the South Wales, but across the UK. But Bronco, Brendan White, will be my next guest this coming Thursday in just 3 days' time. So that's going to be an extraordinary watch. And I know I said at the top of the podcast that Harrison Bennett don't do many interviews. I don't think Bronco Brendan White does many interviews either. So this is the place to be if you want to get the very best UK talent live with tons of fan interaction and sometimes your slightly embarrassing photo. So I apologise there, Harrison, for bringing up your kids' photos with your big show and your Goldberg toys. But if any of my followers, listeners, viewers want to get in touch, want to follow you on social media, want to just say hi and get to know Harrison Bennett a bit more, where can they do so, my friends? And if it helps, I do have your, I took it off, didn't I? I do have your Twitter and your Instagram running along the bottom of the screen, but the floor is yours, my friend. Where can we reach out?
Sweet, yeah, that's it. So as you can see on the bottom, Instagram, Harrison Bennett _pro, and Twitter, HBennett _pro. I'm glad they're on there, because I would not have remembered my Twitter. I would not have chat to come back into the chat. One more thing, I hope Brendan talks about me as much as I've spoken about him today.
I'll make sure of it.
Bennett, make sure you mention the name.
I'll make sure of it for sure. I'll make sure, certainly with some of the stories I've had today. But have you got, I mean, we spoke about merch before we went live. Have you got anything in the works regarding merch or a YouTube, anything like that at all? Anything else you want to plug?
Not really. There's some merch in the pipeline, but it's been so busy to get it sorted at the moment. But probably come, I'll say April, May, there's a new t-shirt design coming out. I'll probably have some updated prints as well. So if you go onto my social media, I'm pretty sure there's links in the bios to my harrisonbennett.bigcartel.com website where they'll all be available, and they'll be available at shows too.
Absolutely. And I'm going to bring up a picture that I brought up earlier. Look at that jacket. Look at that man. Book this man now. He's an amazing and awesome addition to any wrestling show. So getting booked, whether it's in the south of England, South Wales, all over the UK. But this man needs to be booked now. But Harrison Bennett, it's been amazing speaking to you. I've absolutely loved having you on episode 286. Can't wait to see you at a show, possibly Friday in Cardiff. I'll come up and say hi to you. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much. It's been great chatting to you. Cheers.
Indeed.